Hey friends, welcome back for another What's for Dinner video. This week, because we were going out of town, I didn't have as many meals as I sometimes do, but I did a lot of cooking from scratch and I'm so excited to share those recipes with you. Plus, I tried something completely new, some baked stuffed artichoke. It was incredible. I want to play with this recipe because, it's the first time, so obviously there's some things I would change a little bit, but let's just dive right in. So for the first night, I just kept it simple with some fish tacos. This was actually over the weekend. We had just gotten home from church. We were hungry. So I shredded up some cabbage, just a little bit. And then I mixed together some mayonnaise. I'm using the Kewpie mayonnaise. I think for sauces and stuff, it just has a nicer flavor. But you can use whichever kind you want. I did just a couple of tablespoons, and then I mixed in about a tablespoon and a half of some chipotle powder, about a tablespoon of lime juice, a teaspoon of some honey, and then I went ahead and seasoned it with some salt and pepper just to make sure it had lots of flavor. And I stirred this all together. And this is going to be the dressing for our slaw that we're going to put on the fish tacos. This is really good. This brought a ton of flavor to this dish and kind of really dressed up some frozen battered fish planks. I just poured the sauce over the top and mixed everything together. Now I did do this ahead of time so it was ready when we got home. Everything else I did after we got home. Slaw is always better if you let it set for a little while. It just kind of breaks down the cabbage a little bit. But there it is. They were battered fish planks. I just chopped them up and put some fresh pico de gallo on there. And that's slaw. It was delicious and simple. Okay, on to the next dish. We're going to make those stuffed baked artichokes. So I started off by taking a couple of cloves of garlic. I didn't chop them or anything. I just kind of lightly smashed them and I threw them in the pan with some oil. As you can see, I'm tilting it so they're pretty much submerged in the oil. We're not going to actually be leaving these garlic chunks in there. We're just going to let them flavor that oil. So it's perfectly fine that they're whole. Don't worry. We're just going to let them kind of fry up in that oil for just a little bit until they get nice and golden brown and delicious. And that's when we'll take them out because we'll know they will have imparted all of their flavor into the oil, which is what we're looking for. As you can see, they're developing color. That little one especially had a nice golden brown tint to it. The bigger one just took a few seconds longer, but this actually happens really, really quickly. It doesn't take long at all. And as soon as they're nice and golden, I take them right out of the oil so they don't burn. Now we've got garlic oil. So to that, we're going to toss in some breadcrumbs. About half a cup of breadcrumbs for every artichoke you are stuffing. I'm doing 3. So I did 1.5 cups of breadcrumbs. Make sure that the oil is incorporated very well in those breadcrumbs and then season them with salt and pepper. I went pretty light on the salt because we are mixing some Parmesan cheese in a minute, but I did go heavy on the pepper. So while those are toasting up, let's head on over and get started on the artichokes. We want to have some lemon water ready because these do oxidize and turn a nasty color. So I just went ahead and juiced 2 lemons and then threw the halves in there in that big blue bowl with a bunch of water. It's the only bowl I had that was big enough to submerge 3 artichokes. So make sure your dish will let you completely submerge all 3 of them so that they do not oxidize at all. And like I said, just throw the whole lemon in there. It doesn't hurt anything. It just helps. Now keep in mind, we are going to use a little bit of that lemon water in just a little bit when we make our steaming sauce for these. So artichokes, this is the first time I've ever worked with them. I watched a couple of videos. So you take off the stem, which I did learn you can peel and eat that as well, but I opted to not do that. And then you want to cut the top off like I've done there. And inside you see that pretty purple flower. That is not edible. So once we cut the top off, we place these in water so that they don't oxidize. And I cut all the tops off and then popped them right on in there. So next we're going to cut the little spiny, pokey things off the tips of all of the leaves because they get really hard and they can hurt. You don't want to hurt yourself when you're trying to eat dinner. That's no fun and that's not good eats. So we're just going to trim each one of those leaves so there's no hard pokey bits left at the end. I don't really know what you would call them. We're just going to call them hard pokey bits. And then just take your spoon and dive right on in and pry that flour out. This is the hardest part about working with fresh artichokes. And after I did my first one, I felt like I really got the hang of it. But you're just going to kind of dig in and under to pop that whole flour out. Mind you, once you get the purple leaves out, there's still like these hairy bits at the bottom. And you want to make sure that you scrape all of the hairy bits out because you don't want somebody to eat those. They won't want to eat your cooking if you leave hairy artichoke bits in the bottom of these because essentially under that flour is the artichoke heart, and that's the delicious part that everyone is after when it comes to eating artichokes. So as you can see, there's those hairy bits, and I'm just popping them right out. Just scrape around with your spoon. You know, it just takes a few minutes, and you get the hang of it rather quickly. Once it's cleaned out and hollowed out quite nicely like that, we want to rinse it to make sure we get the little hairy bits out, and then pop it in your lemon water so that it does not turn brown and yucky. I did that with all of mine. And I let them soak for just a couple of minutes in that lemon water while I prepped everything else. Those are those delicious breadcrumbs. Look how golden they got. Oh, they tasted phenomenal. I mixed in some Parmesan cheese, about 3/4 of a cup of freshly shredded Parmesan cheese. And now we're going to stuff our artichokes. As you can see, I'm pulling them apart gently. You don't want to tear the artichoke, but you do want to make sure that all the leaves have kind of come apart so we can shove that breading down on the inside to get lots and lots of flavor in these guys. And just kind of do that like you see I am, making sure it gets between the leaves. Open it up some more if you need to. If you see that some of your leaves are not open, just go ahead and pry it apart a little bit more and keep shoving some stuff down there. Now, I have more than I need as far as breadcrumbs go, which is perfect. We're going to save the excess for something. Don't throw them away. You'll see it in the next dish. But there is my stuffed artichoke, and I placed them in a casserole dish. I put a little bit of parsley on top, and then I sprinkled some of the extra breadcrumbs and parsley down in the bottom of the dish. I put in a little bit of butter. Then I'm going to pour in some white wine. I did about a cup because I'm doing 3 of these artichokes. And then I did about a cup of that lemon water that we had the artichoke soaking in. And this is going to make our beautiful sauce. I don't show it, I forgot to film it. But after the artichokes are fully baked, put that sauce on your stovetop in a saucepan and simmer it until it reduces by half and gets nice and thick and creamy. And it is an incredible dipping sauce for your artichoke. It's so amazing. And there it is, it's on the side there. It is so delicious. It had so much flavor to it. These were incredible, and I cannot wait to try it again. I want to try some different things to stuff them with. All right, so on to the next night. We are making a homemade pasta dish. So I've got a little bit over a pint of small tomatoes there. You can use whichever kind you want. I like these Texas two-steps, but I know those are an H-E-B specialty thing, so use what's available to you. Then I took a couple of cloves of garlic. I did not smash them. The skins are still on them. And I tossed them right in that casserole dish, and I poured about 2 tablespoons of oil over the top. And as you saw, yeah, I sent a tomato flying straight onto the floor. I mixed it up really, really well and salted and peppered everything. Then we put it in a 400-degree oven for 40 minutes. When they come out, they're fully cooked, and I very carefully mashed them because, oh my gosh, that stuff is so hot on the inside. Be super careful, you don't want to burn yourself. But I just gently mashed up all the tomatoes so that all of their insides would come out on the outside, and we could make a beautiful sauce out of it. I removed the paper from the garlic cloves and put them in, and then just mashed those up as well. And they are so soft and roasted. Don't worry, I know 3 cloves looks like a lot, but it's roasted and it's almost sweet, and it's not a strong garlic flavor. It's just a beautiful flavor at this point. I went ahead and made sure everything was mixed in really, really well, and I mashed the garlic as well as I could. Then I added in about half a cup of white wine, and we're going to take a minute to kind of season this with a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. We're not going to go too heavy on the salt because we are going to be adding in some Parmesan cheese. So now that this is all in our skillet, we're going to toss in 1 stem of basil. We're not going to chop it, just toss the whole thing in. And a little bit of butter, and we're going to let that simmer for about 20 minutes. And then we're going to remove that basil stem and start very slowly stirring in our cheese. I was being very careful because I don't want this to clump up, and I don't want this to be stringy like a mac and cheese. I want this to be thick and rich and creamy. So I did little handfuls at a time until I had stirred in about 3/4 of a cup to 1 cup of Parmesan cheese. You can put in more or less if you like. The whole point of it is this is going to help make it more creamy, and it's going to just create this beautiful sauce. Now, if you don't like the chunkiness, feel free to use an immersion blender or put it in your food processor and just smooth it on out. I like the rustic feel of it. So I took my pasta when it was not quite finished cooking and tossed it in here in the sauce and let it finish cooking in there. And that really helped it to coat the pasta better. And the flavor was way more intense. It was super delicious. And the sauce, of course, thickened up a little bit more because some of that starchy pasta water got in there as well. It was beautiful. And I topped it with some of those wonderful breadcrumbs from the night before and a little more Parmesan. This was insane. I will never buy pasta sauce again. I don't think that was way too good. So good. All right, so on to the final meal. This was also winter, and it's made from scratch. We're going to make some salsa verde. So I took a head of garlic and cut the top off, wrapped it up in foil and put some olive oil in there and roasted it for about an hour at 400 degrees. While that was in there, I went ahead and got to work on the rest of the ingredients. These are tomatillos. They're wrapped up in paper like that. Just pull the paper and the stem right off. It's simple to do, and wash them well because they're sticky. Then I got a bunch of peppers. I've got a combination of jalapenos and poblanos here. I'm not looking to make an actual salsa that we're going to eat with chips. So I only did one jalapeno because I really don't want it to be hot and spicy. I do want a strong pepper flavor, which is why I have 3 poblanos. If you want it spicier, feel free to add more peppers or different peppers. That's fine. This is what I'm doing. I also chopped up very roughly 1 onion. I put everything on a parchment paper lined baking sheet and then poured a little bit of oil over the top. Then as you can see, I'm just making sure everybody has a little bit of oil on them. This is going to help with the roasting process. Pop this in a 400 degree oven for about 45 minutes, just when they're nice and roasted and delicious and cooked down. So when I pull them out, you can see they have fully cooked. We're going to dump everything, juices and all, just straight into a blender or a food processor, whatever you have. I'm using a food processor. Once it's all in there, we're going to take a minute to add a few additional ingredients. That is that head of garlic that we roasted. It just squeezes out like that. I know it looks like a lot of garlic. I said this before. It's roasted, so the flavor is not strong garlic. It's this really beautiful, smooth flavor. It's wonderful. So once that's in, we're going to pop in some cilantro. If you're one of the people that doesn't like it, leave it out. No worries. You could add parsley instead. Totally up to you. Add a little bit of salt and pepper to taste, about a teaspoon of oregano and a teaspoon of cumin. And then we're going to put the lid on the food processor and let it blitz up. There it goes. We're just looking to pretty much liquefy everything. And of course, once it's done, you can taste it. If you think it's too thick, add in a little bit of chicken broth. Mine was fine. I didn't need to do anything, and that's what it looks like when you're done. So let's make some enchiladas with that sauce, because that's why I made it. Our favorite is green chili enchiladas. So that is what I'm going to do today. I'm just showing you how I cook the tortillas. Some people dip them in the sauce, but for me, I just fry them for like 10 to 12 seconds, just like that. And it makes them soft and pliable, and they hold up very well and bake really, really well. They're not soggy. It just makes everything beautiful in the enchiladas. Now I'm going to take some of the enchilada sauce and put it on the bottom of my casserole dish. I always do this when I make enchiladas. It just kind of flavors everything and keeps them from sticking. Next, I'm going to put a bit of the green chili enchilada sauce on my corn tortilla. Then I will put in a little bit of ground beef, and I'll top that with cheese. Less is more when you make enchiladas. Corn tortillas are not large, so they don't roll well if they have a whole bunch of stuff in them. So less is more. I put a little bit in there, and then I just try to fairly tightly roll them up. You don't want this to be loose. You want it to be tight. That way it holds together. Then I just put as many as I need in there. Usually I will fill the whole entire casserole dish. However, as I've mentioned, we're going out of town, so we weren't going to be able to eat as many as I normally make, so I just made this much. Then I'm going to take my green sauce, and I'm going to make sure every square inch of the top of those is covered, especially the ends, because they will get really hard and nasty if they don't have sauce and cheese on them. So I'm very cautious, making sure that everything is covered but not drowning in this sauce. This is not like canned sauce. It's a little bit thicker, which I actually really liked, and it just baked right into these tortillas. It was amazing. This was way better than any canned sauce. So that's what it looks like with the sauce on. Next, we top it with cheese. I'm just using cheddar. You can use any kind of cheese that you want. Whenever I make enchiladas, it's always just cheddar cheese for us, but I imagine pepper jack or something would be incredible. Totally up to you. If you do something different, let me know down below in the comments. I'm always looking for new enchilada recipes. Once everything's topped with cheese, I just bake them at 350 for about 30 minutes till everything's all melty and delicious. And that's it. I serve it usually with rice and beans, sometimes chips and salsa. But that's dinner, and this lasts for 2 nights in my house. These are so delicious, so incredible. This is one of our favorite meals, and that homemade sauce did it for us. I'm not going back to store-bought after that. This was so good. I hope you guys will try it. I know it's a little bit of extra work, but it didn't take that long. It really was pretty simple, and it was so worth it. The recipe for the sauce makes like a double batch of sauce, so I actually have some in my freezer because I don't know how to can things. I just froze it. One day I would love to learn to can things, but for now, it's fine in the freezer. We'll use it soon enough. Anyway, friends, that is it for this week's What's for Dinner video. I do have one coming next week, despite the fact that we are out of town. I have a few things I've already cooked and a few things I will cook when we get back, so don't worry. I have some recipes coming your way. If you're interested in where we went and what we're doing, I have little ears that live with me, and we are surprising them, so they don't know when I'm not going to say it. But follow me on Instagram, and I will let you guys also know when we get back. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend, and I hope the week ahead is a good one for you. I will see you on Tuesday with my grocery haul. Bye, friends.